Welcome everybody to Huddle Up with Matias Bueno. Today's fan favorite is featured with Ottawa REDBLACKS fan Jordan Zlomislic. Jordan, thanks so much for joining us. This is super awesome. I'm really glad to be talking with someone that loves the CFL and has a genuine, real strong passion for a great team like Ottawa, who has such a strong fan base.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And yeah, I've been watching a few of your episodes recently on your podcast, and it's pretty cool to see that you have a fandom for the CFL as well. Obviously, we don't see a lot of that anymore because of like the NFL, and now we see the XFL coming in as well. So it's always good to see guys supporting the CFL, and it's always good to see people doing it in the media world as well.
Yeah, it's so important for the lifeblood of the league for people to keep the stories alive and the traditions. And in the case of yourself, the Ottawa REDBLACKS are the newest franchise that are playing in the CFL currently. Won't be when the Atlantic Schooners come in, but talk about what made you a REDBLACKS fan, because as we were talking a little bit before we started recording here, you liked the Cowboys, you liked football, but what was it that attracted you to really enjoy being a fan of the REDBLACKS? Because they didn't really do well in their first year.
Yeah, so I started playing football when I was 6, and that was probably 3, 4 years before the CFL came to Ottawa. So that was kind of like my introduction to the game of football. And it was so fun to play the game of football and be around people that love the game of football just as equally as myself. And just seeing that football is a fun sport to play. And my dad grew up being a Cowboys fan, and he's a lifelong Cowboys fan himself. So he kind of gave me like the whole okay to play football and to end up watching football as well. So I got to watch football as a kid growing up, and I watch it a lot now, but when I was a kid, I probably didn't watch it as much. But at the same time, I watched it enough to understand the game. And when the REDBLACKS announced that they would come to Ottawa, it was kind of like first nature for my dad to get season tickets because he was a fan of the Rough Riders back in the day. I don't think he really watched a lot of the Renegades just because it was kind of like the second team, and some people didn't necessarily trust that it would stick around because of what the Rough Riders story had before. So he ended up getting the season tickets for the REDBLACKS, and my whole family, we went to games to start out, and it not necessarily was a good start for the team, going I think 2-16 the inaugural season, sorry. And it was a good experience though, just to be able to watch football here in my hometown. And it's obviously professional football, guys are doing it for a living. You see guys like Henry Burris out there, and we ended up getting Ernest Jackson, Greg Ellingson, and Brad Sinopoli the next year. And we ended up having some success later on. And it's always been kind of like ups and downs here in Ottawa for the REDBLACKS. And you guys from the outside looking in, you guys see it as well. We didn't have a team, and then we did poorly our first year. Then we went to the Grey Cup 2 straight years, winning one the next. And it's really good to see that the city of Ottawa has really adapted to the fact that football may not stick around forever because they've seen it before, and they're starting to appreciate the REDBLACKS. And that's something that I've learned to do as well. And that's something even this past year where I learned to appreciate the CFL and appreciate what happens in the CFL and everything within it as well. So it was pretty much an easy decision to start cheering for the REDBLACKS just because it is here in Ottawa and it's professional football really. And I think that it's a great team to cheer for as well, and it has been for the last while.
And it's very important, as you mentioned, to really understand how appreciative we should be of the league. And Ottawa REDBLACKS fans are the leader on that front in Canada, considering the fact that their franchise has changed almost as many times as any other teams, maybe minus the Alouettes/Concords, and then the Alouettes coming back to the league after the Colts left in the dissolving of the American expansion. So it's so great to see the passion that Ottawa fans have, and especially considering the team has had ups and downs. This year being a bit of this past season in 2019 having been one of the worst that they've experienced since their inaugural year. But with Coach Lapo headed to Ottawa and other great players looking to rejoin the fold, there's exciting football, hopefully, on the horizon for Ottawa REDBLACKS fans and for the franchise. Now, to transition into your projects that you've been working on related to the Red Blacks, you were able to acquire professional accreditation at Ottawa REDBLACKS games and were able to interview many great players at such a young age, only 16 years old, and have been able to build a website, JZ Media, as well as have other projects that are starting to come into the fold. So talk about what made you create these projects. Was it a matter of your passion for Ottawa football, or was it a matter of your passion for content creation and Ottawa just fell into that place?
At the start, I obviously in 2014 when the Red Blacks came into the CFL, I was just a little kid. I was probably 10 or 11 at the time. So I didn't necessarily know too much of what I would have wanted to do in the future. Probably at the time, it was to be an NFL player, but we all know that you have to be talented to do so. And I didn't necessarily have the talent to play at a high level. Obviously, it's a dream, but it stays as a dream for me. So just going through with playing football, and even with the Red Blacks, you're able to meet so many great people. You're allowed on the field after the games, and there's a family feel to the Ottawa Red Blacks. You are really connected to not only the players but also the staff around the team. And one person that I was able to meet, I think in 2016, it was also his first year with the Ottawa Red Blacks, was Chris Hoffley. He's actually the media guy for the Ottawa Red Blacks, and just getting able to meet him in 2016, it was the Grey Cup year, and that's what a lot of CFL fans and Red Blacks fans remember, because it was a 40-year drought for us where we didn't win the Grey Cup for 40 years, mainly because we weren't in the CFL for a good portion of that. But just having that awesome year and just being able to meet people like Chris that year, it was really great to see. And I was only 12 or 13 at the time, and I probably didn't necessarily know a lot about what he was doing like as a job, but I knew that it interested me. Like, I was interested in it. And just seeing, like, I watched the NFL, I watched the CFL a lot, and you watch TSN and you watch ESPN, you watch NFL Network in the States, and there's so many different platforms where you see guys talking about sports. And Chris, he does it as well. He writes some articles on the Red Blacks website, and he's mostly the manager for the media communications for the team. So he gets to work with professional athletes, and he does it in a content creation type of way as well. So you see guys that get paid to, in kind of a word you could say, like, paid to talk about sports in a way. So you could kind of look at that, and that's something that I wanted to do right off the bat, but I didn't necessarily know how. So I kind of started a website. I didn't know necessarily what to put on it, but it ended up being a Ottawa Red Blacks website, and I wrote articles on it just for fun at the start, just to kind of put something out there and kind of say that I'm interested in doing something like it. And it ended up unfolding, and I got to experience a lot, write articles and do interviews with the players I knew on the team. And it was an overall fun experience in 2019 when I started it, after doing some Take Your Kid to Work days with Chris Hoffley and Lever Sage of TSN 1200. And it was an overall great experience to start out. And it's really been fun to kind of go through with the projects that I've been recently doing as well.
Yeah, that sounds absolutely fantastic. And especially with, you mentioned forming that relationship with Chris and how he was able to take you under his wing a bit and show you some of the ropes about working in media and communications and sport. And especially with starting your own website, one of the things that I find that people often underestimate is content creation. And people think you have to be a certain age or have certain credentials or all these sorts of things, when that's not necessarily true. Yourself, you're still a kid in high school that's doing so well at such a young age that most people would not even imagine it's possible to do some of the things that you're doing, but it is. And you're living proof of that, which is amazing. And so, with the website that you have created and with the media company that you're looking to build up, what are some of the goals that you have with the projects that you're currently working on?
So obviously, over the last while, I started my Ottawa REDBLACKS website. That was the first one that I started up in 2019, and like I mentioned, that was just to kind of be out there and kind of put myself out there in a way where people can see that I have an interest for sports media and kind of showcase my passion for the game of football and the passion that I have for the Ottawa REDBLACKS. And my goal for that was, I didn't necessarily have a big goal, but it was just to kind of put my vision out there in a way, because like I want to accomplish a lot in life. I want to go probably to ESPN or something like that in the future. And I know that it's a long way to get there. So I wanted to start early and kind of get myself out there so my opportunities in the future could come to me, and come to me not too hard, because I want to also enjoy life and I don't necessarily want to be working all the time when I'm older as well. So doing it early on, I felt like it was a good idea. And just this past year with COVID and everything, it was kind of tough to do a lot on my Ottawa REDBLACKS website, just because there simply wasn't a season. And we all know the CFL, it had some ups and downs this past year, and it was tough for me to find content to create about the Ottawa REDBLACKS and the CFL. But I ended up connecting with a few players on the team here in Ottawa: Sherrod Baltimore, Jonathan Rose, Alex Mateus, Abdul Kane, as well as some other players within the CFL like Jackson Bennett of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and a few other guys, Curly Gittins and Connor O'Connell for the Toronto Argonauts, who are all from the city of Ottawa, or at least are playing in the city of Ottawa right now. And I worked on a documentary about the city of Ottawa and the football in the city as well. And that's something that I found interesting, and I worked on it probably for a few months, and it was a good project for myself to work on, just to keep my brain functioning. There wasn't any school in the summer, and there wasn't much school going on before the pandemic, or during the pandemic, I should say, just because of the online courses, and there wasn't much to do on the online courses. So I took it under as a project to do during that, so I could keep working on my craft and kind of get better as well. And my overall goal right now is to kind of build my new website, the JZ Media website that I just started on my birthday last year, December 1st. So it's more to create a name for myself and to create a name for other people that I know as well in the process, that are are up and coming in the game of football, whether it's a player or a coach or anybody really that I think are good at what they do, like yourself, even doing a podcast, and just to put their names out there more and to kind of show my appreciation for the people that have helped me on the way to what I hope is success. And I want to kind of do it in a way where I'm not only building my name as a whole, but also the people around me and the city of Ottawa as well, because of the awesome support I had during the filming and the whole editing and everything with the documentary that I did as well. So right now my goals, they're pretty big, just to probably go to ESPN one day or something like that. That's just the mindset. And I don't really have any short-term goals. I'm just going to keep working and see where life takes me, really.
For sure. And especially with the work that goes into building a documentary like the one you did, it takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of diligent work, and the finished product is always the most satisfying feeling to know all that went into that, and especially with how much guys in the CFL have come to appreciate the league. They as well in Ottawa, I'm sure, appreciate fans like yourself and the community, the greater community of Ottawa, who love the passion that their fans bring to the league and love when people like yourself do great work to bring forth the names of those coaches, players, and other people who are going to become up and comers in the world of football, whether it be in Ottawa and then the greater national community at large. So a big kudos to you for taking this initiative at such a young age that most people might not even imagine, and it only pays off in the long term. So in terms of the documentary, before we wrap up our time, what was the most enjoyable thing about the process that undertook filming a documentary about football in Ottawa? And what other projects might you hope to take on as the year or the next few years go on?
So for the documentary and pretty much everything that I've worked on to this point, I think the most enjoyable thing, or maybe the best thing that has happened to me through the process, was building the connections and building relationships with people, not only in Ottawa but around the city, the cities here in the surrounding areas, but also the country of Canada and even the states as well. Because football, as we know it, it's American football, so we're in the states as well. We're watching the NFL a lot, so it's all based on your connections as well, and it's a business, so you have to build your connections and have these relationships with people not only closest to you but around like the CFL, around the NFL. And the documentary was a great part of that. I got to build a lot of great relationships with guys like Sherrod Baltimore. Like I mentioned, he plays for the Ottawa REDBLACKS. He's a fan favorite in the city, and I really hope he gets re-signed by the REDBLACKS, of course. But he's a great guy, and it was a great experience to work with him with the documentary, as well as some other projects. And some projects that I'm working on right now are with guys that worked on the documentary with me. Coach Jean Guillaume, he's a high school coach here in the city of Ottawa. I may have posted a few things about him, and it's just to put out more about the city of Ottawa and the football being played here, not only at the professional level, but at the smaller levels as well, like the high school level, the college level, and even youth football as well, just to expose the game of football more here in the city of Ottawa. I just recently have started writing articles on the best high school football players here in Ottawa. It's kind of like in the States where you have ESPN writing about the best, and you have like 247 Sports or Rivals where they rank the players. I'm doing something similar. It's called Jay-Z's Scouting Reports. I have them on jzmedia.ca, where I post all of the best at each possession. And I just started it this week. I have 5 articles now out. I posted every day this week, and it's all defensive backs this week. The next week it's going to be linebackers, and you'll see it all unfold. And it's something exciting for myself to post more and see where my whole experience will take me, just because of the amount of people that I'm writing about and the amount of people that are seeing it as well. And I'm also going to be hosting a podcast just like yours, hopefully in February. So that'll be an exciting start. Hopefully that COVID lets me go into a studio and actually do it, but we'll see with that. And that's just a whole goal for myself. I'm going to be working on a podcast. I've always been kind of looking to start one, but I never really started one. And it's going to be a fun experience. I'm going to have a lot of guys on it. It's going to be like a guest kind of thing where you have multiple guests on and they talk, and it's going to be like a group conversation. So that's going to be exciting, and I'm really looking forward to it, and all that will come to me after that.
There's so much great stuff that you're mentioning, man, that just, it makes me so excited, seeing how much you love football and how much you love, the greater community of Ottawa, and especially not just even within Canada, but football in the US. And starting a podcast is a great way to build relationships with others, in the same manner that you did, how you built a relationship with Chris and with many of the players that you mentioned who started playing football in Ottawa or are now starting to play football in Ottawa. So we're towards the end of our time here. I'm so glad that we're able to get this done and that we were able to connect and to bring your story and to share it into a new branch. And I really, really have enjoyed speaking with you today, Jordan. It's been super awesome. Was there anything that you wanted to mention to anyone out there, any of the listeners, whether it be advice from something you've learned or something really cool that's happened to you that you'd love to share?
There's not really too much that I want to share, just because I'm constantly posting things and I'm constantly posting the stories that I want to share. So I'm gonna just kind of use this time to say thank you to everybody within the CFL and everybody within the game of football that has not only helped myself out, but the other people within the country here and the people in the city of Ottawa as well. They've all been supportive of the documentary that I did, the website that I'm working on right now. And it's really great to see that a football, like playing the game of football, you could see that as a community. And we see it now with guys like yourself who start podcasts as well, where guys are constantly on these podcasts talking about football. And it's really great to see that football has really built where it is today here in Canada. And I'm just excited to see where else it leads myself and where else the game of football leads here in Canada as well. So thanks again for having me on, and I look forward to maybe being on again, or you could come on my podcast, and whenever that's all started out, we could talk about some CFL whenever the Blue Bombers play against the Red Blacks for the first time in 2021, whenever Lapo plays against his former team. So that'll be exciting. And thanks again.
Everyone, make sure to go check out Jordan's website, jzmedia.ca. Make sure to check out his social media handles. That'll be in the description below. And Jordan, thank you so much for being on today. It was super, super awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, everyone, that's today's fan feature with Jordan Zlomislic from Ottawa. Big Red Blacks fan. Everyone, make sure to go check out his stuff. It's going to be super awesome.